All right, diary listeners. Holy crap. I already recorded all of this, but it got lost. It was so freaking good too, listeners. Josh. Josh. I am still a baby podcaster here. Um, Here is, diary listeners, my gracious, my beautiful, my kind, my dedicated, integral, just loyal listeners. This is part 2 of Josh Hoffman's diary entry, and we are calling it Respect and Love. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
You're not perfect, and it's okay. Like, it's fine. And then, of course, they, the one guy was like, "Oh, I got you something. Hold on, I'll come right. I'll be right back." And he went and grabbed a fucking bowl and was like, "Hey, this will help." But yeah, he was like, "All right, here's how we cope with when we mess up a tattoo." But like as silly as it is, like their weird way of showing love in that moment was like, "All right, yeah, no, you're right. Like, it is okay that I can, as an imperfect person, using a machine to implement fucking a permanent thing on someone that's also imperfect. Like there's going to be times where it's not to the degree that you want to operate at, but it's still an experience. And that guy like loves the tattoo, and like there's nothing I can say to take away from that. Like he still values that moment of receiving that tattoo, even though I look back and like cringing, but like I in a weird fucked up strange way them telling me that in that way and give me a bong and be like, yeah, it's fine, man, like it welcome, like it helped in a
I mean, it was the same when I fell off a horse for the first time. They're like, "Oh, look at that, now you're a horseback rider." They're like, "You're not a rider until you fall off." And I was like, well, that's an interesting thing to think about it with, but okay. And it was very celebrated, like very celebratory. Like, look at that, you got the wind knocked out of you. There you go. That's right.
Congrats, you're one of us. Like, it's strange, but like I do appreciate that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. That's good. And this is a very big evolution of your caring because, like you said, you went from, not really giving a shit and, really having it be about you and what you wanted it to be and not wanting to infringe upon that. And then this is kind of the path of you really caring and wanting to be as good as you can be and not just for yourself.
No, there's a lot more riding on it than just like, oh, how good am I at doing this? Like, talk about character development. Like, I think as tattooers though, we do like kind of develop as we do this though, like for better or for worse, like it's just how it goes. But I'm grateful for the way that it has happened so far, for sure.
So you've mentioned it a couple of times. I know that in the in the times that we've spoken, drug culture was very much so a part of your apprenticeship. Do you want to dig into that a little bit? Because that's where a lot of people can get off the rails, like if you have more of an addictive personality and stuff, that can really, with the amount of money that you can glean from a tattoo, that can go a lot of places.
No, I'm completely fine with talking about that. I guess I don't really know where to start, but
there was so much.
having, been, I don't know, in my apprenticeship, I was just like the beginning, at least I was, single. I was 21. I was drinking with my friends and like smoking weed all the time. And then when I get in my apprenticeship and they have like, I get there, I'm like, oh, this place is awesome. There's like a fridge full of beer all the time. And, I go back in the room when they're like when he's giving me a tour of on my first day, and There's a whole room dedicated to bongs and pieces. I'm like, whoa, this is fucking sick. Like, this is great, you know?
Fuck HR.
Yeah. Like, who's HR? And, you know, my mentor's like, me, it's fine. Like, I'm like, all right. Yeah, it was wild. And I was like, whoa, cool. Like, you know, at 21, I'm just like, nice. That's my reaction. I'm like, hey, that's cool. I really like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the more I was there, the more I fucking smoked, and, you know, just all the time. Like, that's just what it was. And by no means do I regret that. Like, that was a amazing fun time of my life. But the more I was tattooing and the more I saw in tattooing and the more I like was wrapped into this lovely blanket of the tattoo industry that we all get to be a part of, I noticed that I didn't want that for myself anymore. Even seeing in the ways that like regularly like smoking, like, and I'm not saying regularly like 2 times a day. I don't really give a fuck if you smoke 2 times a day, man. But like if you sit there and you need to take a break every 30 minutes to, you know, go back to the break room, like to revitalize yourself. Like I don't see an argument that someone could do that says it doesn't take away from what I'm doing. I truly believe that like, and it's by all means, like go for it if you want to, but in my personal life, I have seen that it just is not worth it. Like for me, I thought it took away from my reactions just with like talking to people. Like I felt sluggish and slow, even like being not coherent, but I guess like all the way there in the morning, even like after a long night tattooing and smoking, like getting in the shop and feeling like, God damn, I feel so like down. Like it takes so much out of you. And then as I got like more used to it and like started having these like the awareness of like, oh, I'm good. I don't want to smoke today. I'm all right. And like the more they offer, the more I realize like, God, these guys asked me if I want to smoke like 8 times just in like a span of 6 hours. I'm like, I'm okay, man. Like I'm good. I'm just enjoying being here. Right. And then it clicks in your head too of like, you know, I'm at this point 21, covered in tattoos. Like, you know, there's pounds of weed, like, you know, rolling around this place all the time. Like, if someone were to slip up because of being high all the time and they get popped at the shop, there's no cop in the world that's going to look at my ass and be like, you know what? Yeah, I trust him. He had no idea what was happening. Like, surely he didn't know there was pot in here all the time. And it became just not worth that risk. Like I can't knowingly stay in a place that if I want to be taken seriously, it's detrimental to my career.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's before we even also started like doing mushrooms like 4 fucking times a day. So like I couldn't flourish in that place, in that space. I don't even know how you
did that. Before that, there was an incident that you talked about where your mentor made you smoke hash, was it? Like really quickly?
Oh, no.
How'd it go?
No.
How'd it go? So it was cute. I wanted to come out on the podcast because I did think it was a good lesson.
When I was talking about one of my buddies at the shop, it wasn't my mentor, but it was one of my buddies at the shop. And, I love this guy, but I was kind of saying how I was over it, and I like had declined. I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm okay. And he was like, oh yeah, cool. Like making perfect eye contact, like staring at me like, yeah. All right. I gotcha. Yeah. As he's like lighting up resin in a
that's
like
what it was.
huge piece. And he sets it right in front of me. And he said, that glob's like $40. Don't waste it. So, you know, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna like, waste this shit. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I like honestly, like as cute and silly and like, you know, that was the homie. Like I look upon that moment and it's such a funny thing, but I also like needed to make that boundary for myself afterwards of like, you know what, like, no, like why would I do that? Like if I'm like feeling like I shouldn't be doing that and not wanting to do that anymore, like why would I cave on that?
Right.
So that was like kind of the stepping stone moment of being like, you know what, I don't feel like altogether, I don't want to say uncomfortable. Like there's a negative connotation with uncomfortable, of course, where
Right.
it's like, I don't feel safe here. I felt entirely safe there. It was
Right.
more like the unknowing, like I don't feel comfortable chancing it on other people's
Comfortability.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not comfortable with that anymore.
Yeah.
So
No, it makes complete sense. And honestly, as far as like pot is concerned anyway, I view it as such a communal drug that if the clients are not equally coming in and being offered the same thing as like that's $40 of resin, don't waste it,
yeah.
and you're not all toking up together, and that's the culture that they're coming for me. I really can't perform because that's when I will get anxiety from doing a drug like that, as if it's not a communal thing that everyone's doing or at least has access to. Then I'll start going, oh my God, is this okay? Is it okay for me to be like this right now? And it'll distract me from what I'm supposed to do. So it's good to recognize that about yourself. And also I think that, people who are pushers, I hate to put it that way, but like, it's kind of how they show love. I mean, Rico's a good example. I'm now on a carnivore diet, and this motherfucker keeps bringing food into this house and like offering it to me, even though he knows my conviction.
Well, especially with like, I can imagine this, like you're like sitting there with like the fifth piece of like the fifth steak that you've eaten like in this week, and he comes home from like the shop and there's a thing full of like pizza and like all this shit.
Anything, just a
Fun
piece of fruit
from the
he's like overeating at this point. Like he's like last night he came in to the room after having eaten again, and he's like, I'm so full, and he's eating a fucking apple. And I'm like, why are you eating an apple? He's like, I don't know, man. I just want an apple. And I'm like looking at him being like, dude, it's like having to smoke every half hour just to do what exactly? And like you said, it's more than just like the allowance of it or anything like that. When you're able to sit there and really break it down and process it, and what you were saying earlier about the economics of a setup that isn't overdone, like it seems like that was kind of traded for a lifestyle that was vastly overdone when it came to the drug use too, because whatever you're not spending on the setup, you're spending on this habit that you have. And that's kind of how I see it in my life too. I was like really looking forward to having lower costs when it came down to our grocery bill, but that'll never happen with the man that I have. He's Italian. He's a feeder. He's just, if he's not feeding me, he's feeding himself. It's just like, and I give him a lot of things, but it's his love language. And I do think that is something, and I don't mean to call them pushers, but like people who like to celebrate, the collective, vibe.
I feel almost bad talking about that in a negative way, even though like I don't feel bad, but I see what you're saying. I'm not complaining, because again, those were some of like the most fun times of my life. I was 21, like that shit was fun as fuck. But I recognized once I had this like these little moments of clarity hit me when I was not stoned and on mushrooms constantly, that I was like, wow, like this clarity is amazing. Like I really forgot what it was like, and I didn't want to give that up anymore. Like I really enjoyed that clarity. So like, yeah, that was their love language. Like they were just getting me fucked up because they wanted to have fun and like just like be boys, and I love that. But I recognize that that's not what I needed anymore in my life. And like it reached a point where I was like, okay with that. Like, and I knew that I would, lose them as I don't want to say lose them as friends, but like I knew that I would give up the relationships I had because I needed to grow.
Yeah. No, and it's a classic tale, and I'm glad that we're speaking about it, because with anybody, when you're trying to like you said, grow. I mean, this is a whole thing about learning, growth, progression. It's really important to know, when you're in a situation that doesn't serve you anymore. In a lot of ways, I wish I would have known that more in my own story. You get better and better as time goes on, kind of calling the shots and being like, yeah, dude, that's fine. Fine for you, not for me. I'm good. But, in the beginning, you get caught up in certain cyclical kind of things and certain relationships, and really to like pursue what is your own betterment, which if we're selling that in a professional way to people, you just got to pursue it and walk away, and it is just business at that point, and it's really no hard feelings. So as many hard feelings as can happen.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
What was mushrooms like? I know you've talked about it before. I can't imagine that.
I never had like any. I've never had any like crazy visuals. Like I've never taken like LSD or anything. But everyone that I talk to about mushrooms has said that it's like nothing in comparison. Like they say acid is so much more vivid. I have, of course, a fun story that I've mentioned to you about. But the day I was going to come to my mentor and say like, hey, I need to leave. Like, it's not working out for me in a way that like, it's no hard feelings. Like I still have love for those guys and like appreciation for what all I got to do there. But I just felt it in my heart that I needed to go. It was the same day I was going to tell him all this. And I go in and my one buddy that was working there was like, oh, hey man, like he was there early. He was like, hey man, do you want any mushrooms? And I was like, in the way that like I can't account for someone else's feelings, I'm like, it crossed my mind. I was like, I have no idea how my mentor is going to react. Like he could beat the shit out of me on the spot. He could punch me in the gut and just walk away. He could, go full silent. He could just yell at me. He could berate me, like whatever he wants to say. I'm like, I have no idea. So I had the thought cross my head that, if I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me, if I'm going to get punched in the face, I'd rather do it on mushrooms. So I a handful of mushrooms with my buddy, and, like an hour and a half later, my mentor gets there and they immediately start kicking in as I'm telling, really one of like, at this point I was, I was at the end of working night shift. And I was still like hanging out at the shop all the time. Like any time in the day that I had, I was at the shop. I wanted to like be there and progress and learn. And, like I didn't have time to hang out with my friends before tattooing, like as frequently. Like I never saw them. And like it, I felt like shit because of it. Like after, I got out of there, I had free time. I, of course, like connected with them again, but it was like, it was sweet. And I was bittersweet because I was like, damn, I lost my like main friendships for a year and a half there. Like these guys at the shop were the only friends I really had other than my girlfriend. So like I literally like in an emotional state because of mushrooms are just heightening how emotionally like vulnerable I am. I'm like fighting back, shedding a tear as I'm telling my mentor, like, dude, like I have to go somewhere else. Like I love this industry and I will never do anything else. Like I can't, like, this is the only thing I really want to do ever. But for some reason, like I was in such an emotionally heightened point that I was just, dude, like shedding like 2 or 3 tears as I'm like, dude, like I don't know. Like, it's just what I need to do. And I feel it like so deeply that it just is like, it's not even that I want to, I have to.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of silly, but I was,
it probably kept you from getting a very awful reaction.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I really do, like, whether he despises me, like just doesn't like me, even if it's just hard feelings, whatever it is, like, I'm sure he could tell that I was genuinely like really upset that I had
moved. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his reaction?
I mean, he was kind of a busybody, so I think he kind of like he like walked around and was just like busying himself with things. But he did this thing he did for a year and a half where he's like, walk with me, and just like start doing shit. So he just, you know, it was like almost fitting as old times.
Right.
He just, all right, walk with me. And
Right.
sorry, give me one sec.
Oh, that's fine. Your little wiener dog. I love it. Oh man, hilarious.
Sorry, they started barking.
No, it's fine. You got little puppies.
So where was I?
He started walking with you, which
yes, yeah.
it's kind of very Bill Burr kind of thing because it
my God.
like whenever he's gonna have a conversation with his son, he said, "I'm gonna go play ball. We're gonna play ball and we're gonna discuss it." So it's a very manly kind of like walk with me. We're gonna be doing stuff as you're telling me this shit.
Oh, this motherfucker took me outside and he just started like deadheading a fucking rose bush outside. I'm like, all right.
You're like, right? All right, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I told him like I forget how long it was because I wanted to, of course, respect his time, but also like not give him time to like harbor resentment even longer while I'm there. I'm pretty sure I did like 3 or 4 weeks of just like, hey, like I don't mind like if you don't feel comfortable with me having a key and being here. Right. By all means, I'll get my shit out today if that's what you want. But like I did it in a way that I was like, I'm not set to start at like this other shop. Like I am literally like I want you to feel as comfortable as possible as well as myself. So you know, we talked about it a little bit and you know, I continued working there for like I think it was 3 weeks. And you know, he was obviously very cold towards me, but it was like he also talked to me a lot more directly, just very like, this is how it is, that like this, that, whatever, like I'd give him my money after every tattoo, like his cut, and he'd be like, all right, cool. Like, and that's where like, I could tell that was like me like saying I was leaving was kind of like the, ending of that as a friendship, and it became business. Like that's where it is. Yeah. But you know, and you know, it's all love in the way that like I will always appreciate that motherfucker. Like, yeah, like he letting some sorry ass wompy fucking long haired dweeb like with fucking a pile full of charcoal drawings come into a shop and like say like, hey, yeah, man, sure, like we'll give you a shot. Like I will always have love for that.
Let's not forget the $8,000 you had in your pocket.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Well, yeah, so this is a funny, I kind of forgot about that. So I'd taken that in, and he said like, nope, like, you know, I don't believe that you should pay for an apprenticeship. If it works out, it works out. Fuck yeah. If it doesn't, you get the fuck out. And it was that, like, again, I've mentioned it so many times, but like that was the understanding that I had. Yeah. And when I went to leave, he said, damn, I guess I should have made you pay for it. And I was like, what an interesting, like, response. I don't know. I found that so fascinating, but yeah, for positive or negative, I don't know. I was like, oh, all right.
It's very, you know, it's hard. I think when you teach somebody in a mentorship, it's really hard, especially as intimate as the one-on-one is, with bringing somebody into your crew and then teaching them to be graceful when they know, and you have to be graceful about your own abilities as a person, as an artist, as everything, to I think manage that correctly, and know that in the end of the day, it is just business, and it is about somebody else's advancement. And I think he realized in that moment that he had set himself up for exactly that, and that you were, you know, trying to come with it as well intentioned as possible in the beginning, from point blank, day one, you know? And I do think that there's something that happens with people where they think, well, within business that, you know, if you grow a friendship to a certain point that it becomes more and that it's going to, and I've had this, like, I've not left places because, you know, I got fired and I was like, oh shit, man. Like, I thought we were more than that, man. So on the other end, it feels shitty. You know, you feel like, wow, dude, like I really should have kept the boundaries better in that. And, you know, in your heart of hearts, you know, that's the case, but because, you know, it's such a small group of people and what you're learning is so much a passion that you share things that you never share with anybody else. I mean, you shared your 21st birthday with him and he got a tattoo from you at that point. Like that's huge. And, I mean, it's an interesting thing to say, but I do think it was him being like, man, this sucks. I'm hurt.
100%. I think, like, I know, like, I'm sure he felt betrayed. I'm sure he felt, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. And like, I kind of told him that I was like, I would feel the same fucking way. Yeah. Like, I can't not do it because you'll feel that way, but I have to do it. And I know you're going to feel how I would feel in the same position. Like, and it was really like saying goodbye to a friend in that moment. It was like weird. Yeah. Like, I could just tell that I would never hang out with this person again. I was like, it's just how it goes. But, sorry,
I was going to say, no, I mean, I'm interrupting you. I was going to say, interestingly enough, that's what happened to me in the podcast world. You know, I started out with a relationship podcast and my friend Amy D, we went into it and, you know, those were such great podcasting days, but it came to a point where we really hadn't talked about the boundaries of how we were going to formulate the podcast. And it got to a place with me anyway, that I did not, it was kind of like you with the drugs, like thinking about it in terms of your future and what felt good to you and what you were trying to craft for yourself and what that looked like. And the risks that you were taking and how you felt about it. It became kind of the same thing with me and Amy. And I never fully communicated that to her. I just simply was like, you know, I think it's time for me to have my own podcast and move on from this. I think this is more your thing at this point, which it ended up not being, which I was really upset about because I thought that, you know, she was kind of taking that ownership of it in a very real way. The foundation was hers. The whole name was hers and the premise was hers. And so I thought, you know, I didn't feel like I had equal ownership. I felt like it was more her. So if anybody was going to dip, it was me. But I never had that like very in-depth friend conversation to kind of, you know, even see if it could be different. I just was like, this is my exit. And we really haven't spoken much since. And it's upsetting to me a bit because I love her. It's weird when
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love her. And parts of me are like, wow, should I have had that conversation? I don't know. I mean, and who knows what would have happened if you had said to him like, yeah, dude, like, you know, part of the reason why you're not mentioning him is that, like, you know, because of the culture of the studio, like the implications of bringing attention to that much, you know, adamant drug usage is that you just can't do it. You can't let it air. And, you know,
I'm not doing it. Like, I guess it's one of those things where like, I respect him, like as his own person, as his own life, like as his own entity. Like, I'm not going to air out. Like, I don't feel like I'm talking positively or negatively about anything, like about him, about his shop. Like, I have respect and love for that guy. Like, but it's not honoring myself to not talk about my own experiences, whether it be positive or negative or some fucking gray matter in between, you know, like but I would never want someone to feel like I'm airing out dirty laundry or like talking shit just because I'm on a podcast and have like, you know, if I'm like I do want to make it clear that like I'm talking about experiences that I had, not negatively or positively. Like, It's just
No,
life, man.
it's just the way
Yeah.
it was. And it's emotional too, because I think you're giving a really good view of what it really is like, like,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, I mean, I just, Nick Baxter's post, like he reached a point with his mentor that he shouted out love, but they both got to a point where Nick had to go to him and be like, listen, dude, I gotta pursue this here. And, I'm sure it was hard for, your mentor to look at you. Yeah. And all parties.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, I don't get a sense, just so you know, from what we've already discussed, that this is positive or negative. It just is what it is. And I think it's good for people to understand that this is the muck of business and learning a craft and having to progress yourself and having to constantly make choices that kind of suck, like,
this is humanity though. Like, that's just the thick of it. It's how it goes. And like, I guess, like, I didn't even, I kind of made that preference of, not preference. I kind of prefaced, like, I'm not saying anything negative or positive. No. Like, I guess I also wanted to say that, like, sorry, I'm thinking of the words, I guess. I came into this, like, shop in a time where his, like, home life was very much changing. And that's another thing. This is I guess a reason I don't harbor resentment or, like, any hard feelings to, no matter how harshly he, like, had talked to me or, like, anything he said. Like, I took it with a grain of salt, because we all go through shit. Like, I could never attribute, like, if he's genuinely mad at me, like, calling me a piece of shit or, like, God, I fucking hate you. Like, it's not him actually hating me. He has so much emotions going on in his own home life that it's like, he's not sitting there harboring resentment at me for, using the wrong, like, wipe to wipe something down or, like, anything like that. Like, it is literally just those little inklings of frustration in the day-to-day life that come out. Yeah. Like, and it made it a very bipolar atmosphere, to where I think I've mentioned this to you, like, when we've talked, but, he would get into the shop and I would, like, his fucking station would be ready, be, like, ready to rock and roll for his appointments. And I'd dap him up and be like, yo, what's up, man? How's it going? Like, good morning, all that kind of shit. And I would never know if it was, like, my closest friend coming in, or an asshole that just was not excited to see me at all. Like,
right.
It was like, I was either going to have someone that looks down upon me as, like, less than a human being, or, like, a fucking homie. Like, like, we dap up, like in Predator, when fucking, like, Arnie, like, Dylan, you son of a bitch, like this awesome handshake. Like, you had no idea. And I think that's what made it such a, like, it was even less of, like, the weed and stuff. Like, obviously that was an influence of my decision of leaving, but to live day to day on a shaky foundation of not knowing how people are going to react to you, like, that is it makes sense that you would feel imbalanced. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense that it would feel like tilted a little, of, like, what do I, like, how do I perceive every day of coming in here,
right,
not knowing what I'm going to receive? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it reinforced that whole, like you said in the very beginning, like, this is either going to work out or it's not going to work out. And that was the foundation of it, was this very bipolar, kind of untethered, unchoreographed, no curriculum.
Yeah.
Day by day, just watch and learn and walk with me.
Yeah. And I think in another life, like, it would have been so much more structured, because he was a very organized person. He was very structured in the ways he did things. And it was like that one aspect that he just could not, like, have the time to think about, was obviously me. Like, why would I take up more space in his life of what all he thinks about? Like, with a kid, with like, trying to make a relationship work, like, it makes sense that some little fucking idiot that, you know, cleans a shop sometimes and like tattoos every once in a while, like, of course I'm going to be the last. Like,
oh, it's
do you know,
slight.
you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to see it as you're saying. I wouldn't underscale you. I think it's really good that you had compassion, because a lot of people don't, and they feel like so much more should be given. And it's like, dude, this person, I mean, they own a shop, they have a kid, they're tattooing, they're also, you know, somebody's partner. Like they're spreading themselves very thin. And it's like a boyfriend of mine once being like, I just feel like I'm always last on your list. And I was like, dude, you're on the fucking list.
Yeah, be grateful.
Like, you're on the list. Do you know how many things make the list? And I was like, and you're not last.
Not a lot.
You're just always focused on it when you are. And I'm like, it's a sliding scale, man, on any given day. Like, I'm sorry, but that's how it goes. It's like, I mean, you're a full grown adult. I'm sure I'm not top of your priorities every single second.
Yeah, 100%. I think
you're right.
It's something that like I don't by any means think I'm like some perfectly aware human being, like conscious of every step I take in every direction. Like, but I think I like back then, even at 21, you know, being like just recently having smoked weed less, I consider myself aware in the way that, like, you know, I was aware of the fact that like he had a lot going on. I was aware of the fact that like, why would he sit there and constantly at home think of the structure for the next day for me to draw? I'm at that point using, like, obviously he's investing in me so that like I one day tattoo for years out of his shop and make him enough money that it warrants being worth it. Right. But at that moment, right, I was just a fucking, like, I was sitting there drinking beer with him in his shop, taking up a room and using supplies to give him, you know, like
make his life more complicated. Make his life more complicated. Well, it's hard. Literally. It's hard to see the forest through the trees a lot of the time.
You have more perspective on that though, like having had an apprentice, but like.
No, because I was just going to say about you, you're an older sibling to much younger siblings. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what has given you at least that amount of compassion to have for your mentor in that way, for you to understand and realize the fact that he had a lot more going on than just you. It still doesn't take away from what you need as a person.
No. Yeah.
So, you know, it was what it was, but I do think that you have had a lot of that perspective. I only have one younger sibling. And like I've told you, when we were growing up, I was like, fuck this asshole. I don't like him. I didn't want him. I'm just as much of a kid as he is. Screw you if you think that I am responsible for him. I am not. But you did take a lot of the responsibility of your siblings on. So I think that your perspective and your, you know, awareness of those things is a lot more compassionate than mine, honestly. Yeah, man. Like, it's taken me a long time to grow up.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wanted to like touch base on that, of like the actual atmosphere of my, you know, the atmosphere of my apprenticeship of, well, honestly, at that point it was fucking home. Like I talked about like night shift and then being at the shop. Like I had one day a week off, or sorry, 1 day a week that was not at the shop or the night shift. I had like 1 day a week that I would work at one place and not the other, both ways. So, you know, I was working. Sleeping. No, I was not sleeping.
When you were not sleeping, but I mean, when you were off, I'm sure that's probably all you.
Oh yeah. No, I would spend a full day sleeping so that the next day when I worked again, I could like get back to it. But yeah, like the atmosphere was very like, what is it going to be? So like it made sense in a way that, what am I seeking? I'm of course at that moment seeking to be taken seriously. I can't like set up for my appointment not knowing if in an hour like my boss is going to come in and tell me to like tear down, not tattoo today, and like run errands, or if
Right.
he's gonna like respect that he already let me do something. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't know what to expect, I
Would
guess.
had that have happened to you before,
Oh
where you
yeah.
had set up? Oh, well, that's see,
So there was
that's
a
harsh.
moment where um he I'm trying to think. It's so weird recalling something that like it really wasn't that long ago, but it feels like two lifetimes. You know, it feels so vastly removed from like the way my life goes right now. But
Well, yeah, I mean, Rapture is very, very different too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I was setting up and like had a stencil on one of my buddies because at this point, you know, I was just tattooing friends and shit, and you know, he drove like 40 minutes to get there. I had a stencil on him, and uh, he made me mow the grass every 7 days. Like sorry, I should say within every 7 days. So that day was the seventh day, and like 11 or whatever time was like the only time that guy could come in for the appointment that day. So I texted him like a week before. I was like, oh, yo, just so you know, like I'm gonna mow the grass this day and tattoo him in like the morning.
Right.
So he felt when he got in, he like gave me shit because someone had driven past and said like someone he knew that came to the shop sometimes, like a client texted him and was like, oh, the grass is looking a little long. And he made me like tear down, send my friend home and mow the grass. And I was like, it's little trivial things like that that like really let me know like he's reaching for control at that point. He's trying to gain control of like anything he can because he feels out of touch with everything else that's going on outside his life.
Yeah.
And again, like it sucked in the moment. I was fucking fuming because like that's my homie, and now he's, you know, I feel like I wasted someone's time, and like, you know, he was down about it. Like it sucked, but in like now I can look at that and be like, yeah, like, you know, I'm aware of why. I get it. Like it sucks, but it is what it is.
Well, and on a larger level too, I mean, when you have an adamant rule like that, you know, in an atmosphere where there is no prescription for an apprenticeship and you can teach people the way you want to, and you're communicating not only that to your apprentice, but it's something that people outside of the apprenticeship know, whether or not this actually happened or he just told you that that's how it went down. But I find that when apprenticeships are happening, the clients get very involved in that, you know, in that thing too. And sometimes mentors
Yeah.
will pull clients in to kind of partially haze, you know, their apprentices. And so it becomes this very gang up on you kind of thing where people love to like, you know, kind of feel like they're a part of it too in some way. And so it piles on. And, you know, whether that happened or not, and there was actually a person said, oh, the grass is looking a bit long. But, you know, when you open that up as something that's a regular of your repertoire and it's outside of the studio.
Him saying that like jokingly, just giving him, I'm just fucking with you. Like someone that is existing in a very like bipolar, I don't want to say bipolar, but like a bipolar state of like, I never knew if he was giving me shit jokingly as a friend or if he was like dead serious. If you laugh at this, you're fired.
Right.
So like
when
he says that, I'm
because I always laugh when I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's like this relates to a different story. I remember being, sorry for taking too much time with this. I'm like recalling.
You're not. This is your time.
This is your time. I remember. I think I've definitely told you this one, but I remember my buddy got me and all my friends tickets to a Pirates game. So all my friends were driving up to the Pirates game, and we were staying at my buddy's house. And you know, my mentor wanted me to close, so I was like, all right, cool. Like I will be late, and that's fine. Like priority is the shop. Like I'm doing what I got to do. So I closed up the shop on time, like right when he wanted me to, and I already had checked with him, and he was 100% fine with me coming in whenever I can, like comfortably the next day, like within reason.
Right.
Like if I'm driving home from Pittsburgh, like, you know, I safely within reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
Whatever
knew I
that
was going to be
means.
late. Yeah. Yeah. But he was like, yeah, no, like, you know, whenever you get in it, like, it's fine. You can be a little late. Like, it's cool. So mind you, like I was in there every fucking day at 11, like
Right.
opening up, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning everything so that everyone was happy.
Right.
And I get up to Pittsburgh. I missed the game entirely because I was late. I mean, you know, of course. But
Yeah.
I missed the game, and it's like, you know what? It's fine. Like all my fucking buddies are here. I drove up to Pittsburgh. Like I'm gonna hang out with my friends. Like
Yeah.
I have the pass for tomorrow to like come in a little late, and it's all good. So we went to a bar that had pitchers of rum and coke for $5.
God.
And I had like 3 or 4 of them, and me and my friends are just, you know, loving life and enjoying being out with my buddies. And I went outside to get some air because like my phone started ringing. So I like went outside and I answered, and it was my mentor. And he said, hey, just because you're out drinking and getting fucked up with your friends, like don't think you don't got to be there at 11 tomorrow. And I was like, oh, like, did you change your mind? And he was like, yeah, well, I let you leave early today. I was like, no, you didn't. You made me like close up on time. He was like, oh, well, anyway, make sure you're here. So,
Oh shit.
yeah. And I'm like, you know, already entirely fucked up. So I'm like, okay, like I really got to get like my shit together.
Aww.
So I like, you know, drank as many gallons of water as I could. I was like eating fucking bread and greasy food. I was like, I mean, anything a drunk motherfucker could try and do to sober up quickly. We went back to my buddy's house, and you know I slept it off and drove home the next day, like severely hungover, of course. And
Oh no.
I had to leave like, oh god, I think it was before 8 to be there on time. So I like got to the shop, and he showed up like an hour later, and he was like, oh shit, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you communicated that you wanted me here. Like, I had to be here. You made it sound like super fucking important. And he was like, yeah, I was just fucking with you. I figured you were drunk. I figured it'd be funny.
Oh
And
no.
I could not fathom that. Like, it was such a like slap in the face. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I just,
That's certainly some hazing.
ugh. Yeah, as much as it like I don't take any, I don't know. If I was not in a good place, and like if I was not sober by then, like I was hungover, but like I lived and breathed for the fucking shop. I wanted to do so much to like make the shop better. I wanted to like I was coming in on like days off to paint random rooms that just because a client said
Aw.
it looked like kind of shitty, like the paint was bad. Like I was ready to like come in all the time, even spread thin as I was, sleeping 4 hours a night. Like I was so ready to like make this place awesome.
Oh my God.
And for him to say like, hey, like, you know, you might not want to come back if you don't come back tomorrow early. I'm like, oh fuck. Like I'm gonna get fired if I don't go back. Like if I was like actually drunk still, like that would be such a dangerous position to drive back from fucking Pittsburgh
Yeah.
just to try and not get fired. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
hazing, honestly, like I don't give a fuck. It's fine. He told me all the time, like he hated me. I suck. I'm the worst. Like I get it. It's cool. Like I don't really care. I'm here to tattoo. Like I want to do this. So like you can say any bullshit you want to me. I get it. It's cool. But like the possibility of putting me in like that position, having been drunk when I heard it, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna get fired if I don't get there at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it kind of tilted me.
There's a fine line with it, because if it prepares you for what's ahead of you, fine. But if it doesn't, like hazing in war times, okay, nobody's going to give a shit who the fuck you are. You're just a peon. You're just a body that they're throwing into things. You're a pawn for a bigger cause. And I hope that you know that when you're signing up for like a militant kind of thing or going to war.
Yeah.
But when you're teaching somebody that ultimately has to have balanced relationships with other people, which, you know, again, like you said, his relationship life was kind of rocky on his own. He was already struggling with his own balance issues, but when it comes down to producing a person that is going to allow a certain a level of abuse to happen to them perpetually, like you're basically creating like a little, I forget the Stockholm person, you know, who's just there and who, you know, won't leave. And they're so used to the abuse, you know, and they like become this little Stockholm baby. That isn't good either. Like
No,
that's
yeah,
really bad.
I
And
get that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's tilting a little bit on that for me. It's just being like, and same thing used to happen to me at certain times. Though I did you ever confront him about that? Just curious.
I mean, not that it was like, yes, but not in a way that he probably didn't care anyway. Like it
Right.
was more in a way that like, hey, that's not really cool. Like, what if I was fucked up? And he's like, oh, well, you were here anyway. So like, you're clearly not that fucked up. Like it, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. This is probably the female card that got me this was because the one time it really happened to me, it was involving another worker and my boss kind of piled on and he was like, well, you know, why are you so affected? And I got raging mad and I like kind of I don't know if I cried then, but I confronted him the next day because it wasn't stopping and they felt so justified to have that. And I had it in my mind. And our agreement was there was not going to be that kind of hazing. It was not going to happen. So the moment that it started, I was like, well, no, we're going to confront this. And I started like, I really like, I started crying. And I think that kind of, you know, like, I think men, honestly, like, it's either you like watching a woman cry or you don't. And I think most men don't. Most sane men don't. So I think when I started crying, it probably, I mean, I don't think it
like he probably realized then at that moment. Yeah.
It didn't earn me any like you know, girl boss brownie points. But I couldn't emotionally take it. And in my mind, it was kind of like, if this is gonna how it's gonna be, then I'm gonna walk. You know, I'm not doing this. Like I was walking in there to lose my job that day because I knew I had to confront it. But it didn't happen. And he kind of tracked back after that. Like you said, he kind of realizes like, oh shit, I kind of went too far.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I fucked up. Like and like shit like that's gonna happen. Like it's not a perfect structured thing of like, this is the exact increment of hazing that is necessary, but not over over what it should be. Like, you know, it's gonna happen, but when it gets to that degree, I think it's easy for people to lose sight of it when it's just in the moment, little like beating a dead horse kind of thing. Like it's just like, oh wait, fuck, we did make fun of her a little too much, or we did like make him do a little like shit that was a little fucked up. But like I expected that. Like it's okay. I expected like a really traditional apprenticeship, so I was fine with it. But in that moment, that was the one where I was like, dude, if I was like drunk driving from Pittsburgh and got into a car accident,
you could have killed me. Yeah.
But
no, totally.
But it wasn't that deep once I realized, you know, that he was just fucking with me. But
it makes you callous too towards other people.
Had I been in the position where I felt comfortable enough with knowing what he was going to react in certain ways, like I think if I had a more, because I could never tell when he was joking, I could not then realize that he was just fucking with me because I was so used to like at his beckoning call being like, hey, pick this up, hey, go do this, hey, go do this. Like I was so ready to do whatever he asked because at that point you're conditioned. You're like, if I don't do what he asks, I'm fucking losing my job. I'm out of here. I don't get to be in this lovely industry that I have grown to like be fond of, you know? So I was like, fuck, I have to. Like there's no.
Yeah, it's very it reminds me of The Devil Wears Prada, a lot. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay.
I haven't.
You should.
I'm
You
familiar, but I have not watched it.
You should. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you watch it.
My brain immediately went, band? Yeah, of course I know that metalcore band.
Well, it's very similar. I know, right?
I'm just
band.
I'm just fucking with you.
You'll know, because there comes a point where the protagonist just realizes what she's sacrificing in order for this job. And like all these different people were like trying to like go, hey, like, the fuck, dude, you're kind of being a shit right now. But what she learned in this job was incredible, and what she experienced was incredible and was rare and was everything, but the abuse, man, of it. And there is a point where she just clicks, and it's very, it's a coming of age kind of story of like when you finally realize what you're about and what you're willing to tolerate and not tolerate. And that's why, a lot of people, like I had one guy come up to me when I was like 29, and we were all at a Paradise event. I'm not going to shout him out. I think I have before. And he looked at me and he compared me to Teresa Sharp. And he was like, how old are you? And I was like, 29. He's like, well, you better fucking get on it, because she's like 21 and look at her, look what she's doing.
Wow.
And I was just like, fuck off, dude. Like, I'm not trying to keep up with anyone. Like that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm kind of sad for you that that's how you see it. But it's hard when you get to this business young, because you don't necessarily know where you exist in the grand scheme of things or what your boundaries are. And you end up learning them, as you did in a lot of ways, like in these very rough situations, trial by fire, and having to, a lot of hearts break and a lot of miscommunication happens. And it does get a very emotional, and raw, and I'm glad I came into it later.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Like after everything though, I still would not change a fucking thing.
Oh no.
I am so like, yeah. And like, any
You're
of the
more
shops
mature
I was
than me
at,
though, too.
Thank you.
No, seriously.
I
did think I'm just saying that, like, you are very conscious. I do think that you carry yourself well. I thought you were older as a tattoo artist. I really did. I think I thought you were older as a person too. So
yeah, probably. Most people do. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Usually it lasts as long as one of the other guys at Rapture making like a 17-year-old joke. I'm like, all right, okay. Now someone's going to ask, and then I'm going to have to say, and I'm all right, cool.
Yeah, but I think we're all on our own journey. And I think that that's another big thing is like, comparison is the thief of joy. You just don't, like you said, it was my story and I would never trade it.
Yeah. I think like as someone that came into this so young and like really is still, I mean, we're always learning, but still finding what I enjoy in tattooing and finding, everything. Like there's so much to soak up. I'm grateful that I could start this young. I have so much more time to improve and so much more time, like definitely not like scaling or like comparing myself to anyone else, but like being able to look at other people that are in tattooing and be like, wow, okay, I love the way this person looks at this. I like, that's so sick. And like finding inspiration from other people is so important. And I have so much more time to find inspiration. Like I really am grateful that I have, I don't know, like the master craft idea, like a master of this craft. Like that's a goal that I think everyone has, but I am fortunate that I have more time to try and work for it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. Well, speaking of, do you think that you would ever want to apprenticeship somebody or see yourself doing that?
I've thought about this so much. And I of course knew you were going to ask me just because, it's the Apprenticeship Diaries. Like if I'm talking about how strange and crazy and weird mine was, like, of course you're going to ask me this. And it's, I don't have a yes or no.
Mhm.
Like I think someone that is more mature would say when I'm ready and have acquired so much knowledge to finally be able to like teach someone, like I think someone less mature would say yes right away.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Like I think it needs more people in this industry? No. If someone were to come to me and say, I want to tattoo, like I want you to teach me. Like I don't really give a fuck if you want to. Like I want to see if someone can swallow their pride in the same way that I know like I had to. Like I from day one I told my mentor that like I want to like treat me like malleable clay and just be like this is what you are going to do and I
Right.
will adapt. I will learn. It's fine. Like I
Right.
was the bottom of the totem pole, not in the way of just an apprentice. Like I was told I think it was when I was like 9 months into my apprenticeship. He was like, I don't care if we hire the most dog shit fucking piece of shit tattooer from who knows where that is like an asshole and like everyone hates. He's still above an apprentice. He is still above you, and anything he said, like that, you got to do that shit. Like, and that's just how it is. Like, I want someone that, to less a less harsh degree, will realize that like this industry has so much to learn and it will be so much harder if you think you fucking know everything just because you already have prior experience. Like I would want someone that is ready and willing to learn but isn't willing to put their own experiences first and say, "Oh, I already know this." Oh,
Right.
I've been tattooed. Like, okay, like every tattoo is different, man. Like it's not just about having seen tattoos or getting tattoos. Like it's such a bigger process than that. And I think it really, I would have to, for me to find an apprentice, I would have to have someone that is willing to learn in the way that I'm willing to teach.
Yeah. I'm sure it would probably happen very organically. So I think your
Yeah.
answer is honest as
Yeah.
to how it'll probably go. A lot of people are like, well, I offered to apprentice this person because I saw what I wanted to see and, like what I needed to
Yeah.
see in them and then offered it to them. And
I
that's how a
think
lot of things go.
it'll have to be someone that like I see as a really great person before I
Mhm.
see as an artist. Like,
Yeah.
um, I've talked to our lovely friend Jake about this at Rapture, and he, you can only teach someone so much in the like how you tattoo.
Hmm.
You can't teach someone to just like people learn how to draw over time, but like I want to apprentice someone that I know is going to be a good person in this industry, not just, oh, they draw and they'll learn how to tattoo. They will learn how to tattoo regardless eventually. Like if you put the proper time and like care into teaching them, the act of tattooing is not the difficult part. It
Yeah.
is figuring out how you fit into that little section and slice of tattooing.
Yeah.
So I really like, I would not look for someone. I don't give a fuck if someone is the best artist around, can draw circles around me. Like, no, that's not it. Like if someone is a amazing person, but can only for some reason draw hyper realistic watermelon slices, I'm gonna fucking apprentice that person because I'm like, that's
Yeah.
first of all, it's quirky and fun. Second of all, like, but if you're a great person and like you come into it knowing that you're like,
It's a great
yeah,
business card, actually.
oh, dude, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down for me.
Yeah.
If you're
Band
listening,
name, anything,
yeah,
watermelon slices.
if you're listening in the future,
I know,
that
right?
might be your way in. But
I know.
um, no, yeah, I would want to find the right person to apprentice under me. I'm
Yeah.
not looking ever for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so a good person. That makes sense because, it's a suggestion of caring to what you found in this industry and what you would want that person to equally understand and to have about it, that kind of respect. Because like you started out with, like, I realized that I was aimless. I realized that I didn't have a direction. And I think you'd want somebody with that equal want to find a direction, through a craft and be as malleable as you were at that point. It is a level of humility that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Who do you look up to?
Oh God. It's such a hard, like, question. There's so many layers to who I look up to, though. Like, I of course, like, I have our friends Jake and Bria, who are, amazing people, but amazing artists. Like, outside of just tattooing, like, they inspire me. Even just the way, if I sit there for 5 minutes talking to Bria while she's tattooing, she just like is tattooing circles around everybody. Like, it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
She inspires me in ways that, like, even just like the way she handles scheduling and just like, like, I tattoo what I want to tattoo. Like, I can't do that right now. I for some reason, like, in my head, I can't bring myself to do that, but I respect her so much for that. It's amazing. Like, I would be so happy to, fill my schedule with things I only want to do. But I also look up to Jake in the way that he schedules, and he's, he'll take on pretty much anything. Like, I don't want to say anything, but if it doesn't matter if it's a style that he, doesn't do every day, he's ready to, like, that'll be fun. I'll tackle it. You know what I mean? Like, we'll try it.
Right.
Part of me loves that. 'Cause, like, I don't ever want to get to a point where there's a client that comes in that I would get along with so well, but because it's not like illustrative Japanese, I'm like, oh, fuck, I guess I can't take you, man. Like,
right.
I go back and forth in so many ways, but I mean, that's just like inspiration, even just for scheduling. Like, I don't know. I'm inspired by
I think you
all
said
of
it. I
these
mean,
tattoos.
and in a lot of ways, I think that we don't realize how much the essential quality of us being around allows for another person for that, because, Bree's surrounded by people who, for better or for worse, or whatever their reasons are willing to take on things like that. It gives her that much more permission to just, quantify it in one way. She was in a different shop. That might not even be an option that's given to her. Like that might be saying, well, we don't do that here, and then she's a choice to make between whether or not she stays or goes. I mean, that's all business and stuff like that. But I do think that ecoses work because we're all different and we're all willing to take on different modalities and facets, but having that respect and understanding and being surrounded by really cool people that operate on different levels is I mean, that's why I visit you guys. It's very evocative and inspiring.
I think I find inspiration such a hard word sometimes for me to, like, kind of I'm inspired by people that I respect and seeing how they do things. So it's not even necessarily like I could list off so many different fucking names right now of, like, I watched Akira for the first time not that long ago, and I fucking loved it. It was amazing. Like, I was obsessed with it for like 2 weeks. I was like drawing nothing but Akira Flash. Like, I was, like, I scroll through Instagram every day and you see these amazing people that, like, I don't even fucking follow. It comes up and it's just like, whoa, that's fucking sick. I don't know who it is. Like, this person inspires me and I don't even know who like, I know their Instagram handle. I don't know what their favorite color or their fucking favorite coffee order is. Like, inspiration's such a strange thing.
Yeah.
But I really can't, like,
it's too much.
It's too much. Like, even shows, movies. I'm reading Berserk right now, and, like, that's fucking crazy. Like, there's so many little influences that I have right now I can't narrow it down.
Well, no,
Like,
and I think that that's honest too. I mean, you might be in a very big absorption phase.
yeah.
You know, I mean, when about your timeline was when Tattoo Society came out. You had all these different people that were like blowing things up, and like Joshua Carlton. I was like, wow,
Oh
you could
yeah.
do that with a tattoo. Like, there's so many people that just like, and like you're, saying like animation, film, all these different things. And that is a part of our world now more than anything. It's spanned beyond just tattooing in a creative way, because now we have social media, and now we take reels, and there's a whole level of video editing and things like that. And we're able to look at creativity in that way, in a much more expansive way. But it does make it very paralyzing when you have to suss out just a few names. So I get that.
I think the reason I have a problem with like thinking of all these names of tattooers is that like I think I am in that absorption. Like it's less like seeing all these tattooers that like, oh, look at the tattoo they do. Like I'm not transfixed necessarily. I'm not transfixed in like, oh, whoa, how'd this person make a tattoo like that right now? I'm like transfixed by like paintings that I'm not good at painting. I for some reason, like I can sit there for like 12 hours straight and tattoo, and like obviously I'll be real fucking sore, but like I've done like 11-12 hour sessions. I'm like, fuck yeah, I had the patience to like get through it and crush that shit. And then I'll sit down to paint. I'll make it like 2 hours. I'm like, God, I don't want to spend any more time on this, But like, I'm having a lot of love for absorbing art from other aspects of life, and I think it kind of it's like my inner child. Like, I started drawing because of art on Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Oh, cool!
And yeah, it is so random, but yeah, I saw Yu-Gi-Oh cards and I was like, whoa, this is cool art, like fucking dragons and shit like that. I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to draw that. And it segued into like, well, I like this creature or character, but like, what if I did it like my own way? And that of course turns into like, I'm going to just draw a dragon. Like I've copied and traced dragons enough that like, I know basic structure, right? I'll just draw one. So, but like in the way that you're a kid drawing, which of course, like, that's where we started. Like in the way of like a kid drawing, you don't know a lot. You're finding outside influence from things. Like, I think that is when you're most creative, is when you're not susceptible, but like,
influenced. Yeah.
You're ready to be influenced. You're not like turning that off. When you're ready to just like watch and learn and take anything from anything, like just like I don't give a fuck if I'm watching like an interview with I don't know some personality, if like they say something funny that I'm like, oh, that'd be a great little banger, like tattoo on a sheet or something. Like there's so much around us, and I think it's foolish to not use that as inspiration. We get so caught up in our like own little shit. Like I would even just we've talked about this, like getting into Magic the Gathering. Like there's so many people that do amazing paintings for that. Like I hate painting, but I'm like mesmerized by the paintings that people do for these little fucking cards. I'm like, it's so cool. Like
it is so cool.
I love it. Like I never want to get to a point where I'm turning off that like inspiration from outside sources. I never want to let my creative well run dry just because I'm not taking in outside inspiration.
I don't think you will. I don't think you will. Because you like to play. I think I've always kind of noted that about you. You still play. You still play Magic. You still do things like that. You like having the conversations and diving deep. I don't see you stopping. Because I think it's what energizes you is that investment in learning and grinding and just being a part of it. So I definitely see that about you. I don't think you're gonna lose that.
Better fucking not. I don't know.
I don't think you will.
Yeah.
I don't think you will.
No, I love it though.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't go into?
Oh man. Not that I can think of. Um, I'm trying to think. It's so hard. Like we're like rehashing so much about my apprenticeship. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I have to pee one more time.
It's
So
all good.
I'm gonna note this and then I'm gonna have you tell people where they can find you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh,
All good.
so silly. So I'm down my like I was like, I want coffee. And like in my
Oh, I
head, I
love it
was like,
now.
should I be doing this before I go
I was
on?
I was about to start coffee, like making coffee. And I was like, oh fuck, it's like 1:55. So I jumped on real quick and I was like thinking, I was just like, God, coffee would be so good right now. And
It is while you're talking.
oh yeah. No, when you were like, when you're like, oh, can we take a quick break to pee? I was like, yes, thank God, I can go get coffee. Yeah. I of course wanted to like respect your time though. We were starting at 2. I'm not gonna fucking be late to that shit.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you've been vetted in your ability to come all the way from Pittsburgh to get
Oh
get to
yeah.
where you got to be on time.
I don't know about vetted, but I do have a unfortunately my track record of being on time to everything has drastically decreased or changed, I guess, with my lovely pregnant girlfriend Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different rules for different times of life,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
and
we're late everywhere.
you have had the grace of being understanding when other people's life circumstances have called them or made them act a certain way. So now's your time.
Yeah.
It's just it, you know.
Taking up the space.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to have that happen, and that's important, man. It's a very healing thing, and I recommend people, at least if you get into a certain rhythm, stop it long enough to kind of ask, oh, am I doing this because it really works for me, or am I doing it just because this is where I've always known it to be done? And that's,
Yeah.
like there's, so definitely, like those little wrenches and things that life gives us that we have to like stop and reorganize. Really, really good in the grand scheme of things. I do think better person, better artist, everything. So plus you're going to have a human at the end of this. So this is pretty cool.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I know. I'm excited for you. It's a really cool thing. And again, I don't think that whether it's art or not, you are participating in a creation with another person that is going to yield a lot of vast, fun, creative, and mentor-based experiences. So yeah, I'm very excited for you. Very, very excited.
Thanks, friend.
Of course. Where can people find you? And how should they best get in touch?
Yeah, I am, of course, at Rapture Tattoo Emporium. But on Instagram, I'm _Josh Hoffman Tattoo. And then my email, I only schedule through email, but it is joshhoffmantattoos@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, is there, I guess, anything closing that you really want, I guess, people to know before they get into this? Like, I guess, a shouting advice that you can give?
I truly like, whether you are listening as someone that wants to tattoo, hasn't found an apprenticeship, or, whether you're fucking 10 years in and, reaching a plateau or something that you're just not, like, you're feeling stagnant, like whatever it is, like we get to where we're going when we get there. Like it's not something that we can rush. Like, I'm still very new to this industry, obviously, like my experience is vastly different than other people's, but, I want to validate you, and then, like, regardless of where you're at, like, you'll fucking get there. Fuck it. Get to it.
I like it. I like it. Like, give yourself the journey and just do it.
Yeah. Enjoy it. Like, soak up the little fucking things. Like, I don't know. The little memories that you make along the way and just having fun like not taking yourself too seriously, but still respecting yourself. It's not easy, but there's a balance there that like really fucking pays off.
Mm-hmm. Well,
If you've listened this long,
right.
Thank you for listening to our ramblings.
I was just going to say that this is just one diary entry with you, Josh. You are relatively new. And to that vein, to that point, I hope to have you on again. You know, if we did miss something, if in hearing this, you're like, oh man, there's something else I wanted to say. You're my friend. So we'll have you back. And I'm sure you'll have more to say.
Yeah, I'm always down. I'll be in here. There might be a couple more breaks with, you know, a newborn crying or something, but it'll buff out, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll make it more. It'll give us atmosphere and all of that. It'll be great. Yeah, it's all what we all have to deal with in some way. I'm open to it. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course, friend.
I'll let you on for the rest of your day and get some food in us and all that good stuff. I'm sure you have lots to do.
Oh yeah, honestly. All right.
Well, bless you, my friend. It was so good speaking with you.
Of course. Thanks, friend.
Yes, I'll see you later. Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.